The most profound lessons in generosity aren't taught in expensive private schools or inherited through trust funds. They're witnessed in a single moment when a child's pure heart sees what adults have trained themselves to ignore. Marcus Chen had built his fortune from nothing, transforming a small tech startup into a multi-million-dollar empire that revolutionized cloud security. But on this ordinary Tuesday evening at Rosewood Diner, a modest family restaurant he'd been visiting since his struggling days, his 7-year-old daughter Emma was about to teach him something no boardroom ever could. They sat in their usual corner booth, the worn leather seats and checkered tablecloth a comforting reminder of simpler times. Marcus had insisted on keeping this tradition alive despite his wealth. No fancy restaurants on Tuesdays, just good food and quality time with his daughter. Emma was coloring on her paper placemat, her dark pigtails bouncing as she hummed a tune from school, when her crayon suddenly stopped mid-stroke. "Dad," she whispered, tugging at his sleeve with an urgency that made him look up from his phone. "Look at them." Marcus followed her gaze to the table adjacent to theirs, where a young woman sat with 2 children, a boy who looked about Emma's age and a girl no more than 4. The woman's face was drawn with exhaustion, dark circles shadowing her eyes. Her clothes were clean but worn, and she was carefully dividing a single plate of spaghetti among 3 smaller plates, giving the children significantly larger portions while taking barely any for herself. "We're going to share the garlic bread, okay?" the mother said softly, breaking a single piece in half for her children. "And if you're still hungry after, Mommy has granola bars in the car." The little girl's face fell slightly, but she nodded bravely. The boy, older and more perceptive, pushed some of his pasta back toward his mother's plate. "You need to eat too, Mom." "I'm fine, sweetheart. I had a big lunch." The lie was gentle but transparent. Emma's hand tightened around her father's arm. "Dad, they only ordered 1 meal." The little girl looks so hungry. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. He'd grown up in circumstances not unlike what he was witnessing, his own mother working 3 jobs, spreading meals thin, smiling through the exhaustion. He'd promised himself that when he made it, he'd never forget where he came from. But somewhere between the penthouses and the private jets, he'd stopped truly seeing. "Dad, can I share with them?" Emma's voice was small but determined. "We always order too much anyway. And they have kids like me." Before Marcus could respond, their waitress arrived with their order: 2 fully loaded burgers, a mountain of fries, onion rings, a side salad, and Emma's favorite chocolate milkshake. It was, as his daughter had noted, more than enough for twice their number. Marcus looked at his daughter's earnest face, then back at the struggling family. The mother was now quietly asking the waitress for a glass of water, declining the offer of refills on anything else. He made a decision. "Emma," he said quietly, "I think that's a beautiful idea. But let's do it in a way that respects their dignity, okay?" Emma nodded solemnly, understanding in her young eyes that this required delicacy. Marcus flagged down their waitress, Maria, who'd known him since his own struggling days. He leaned in and spoke quietly, sliding his credit card across the table. "The family next to us, I want to cover their meal completely. But more than that, please tell them there was a mix-up in the kitchen. Say that an order was made incorrectly and it's going to go to waste unless someone can help eat it. Bring them another full meal, whatever they want, and a dessert for each of the kids. Make it seem like they're doing the restaurant a favor." Maria's eyes welled up slightly. She'd watched Marcus rise from a struggling college student to the man he was today, and she'd never seen him lose his humanity. "You got it, Mr. Chen. And Maria," Marcus added, "there's an extra 500 on that card. It's yours. I know you're putting your son through community college." Maria's hand flew to her mouth. "Mr. Chen, I can't." "You can, and you will. Consider it a scholarship fund." As Maria walked away, Emma squeezed her father's hand. "What did you do?" "I followed your lead, sweetheart. You reminded me what really matters." They watched as Maria approached the neighboring table with a practiced story about a mixed-up order. The mother was hesitant at first, clearly proud despite her circumstances, but when Maria insisted the food would otherwise be wasted and gestured to the children's hungry faces, she reluctantly agreed. Within minutes, the table was filled with food, a proper meal for 3, with sides and drinks. The children's faces lit up like Christmas morning. The little girl actually gasped when she saw the chicken tenders and fries appear before her. "Mom, look, real food." the boy exclaimed, then caught himself, looking embarrassed. His mother's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide by looking down. "Remember your manners," she said softly. "What do we say?" Both children chorused their thanks to Maria, who winked and said the magic words, "You're helping us out, truly." Emma watched with satisfaction as the children dove into their meals. Then she did something that made Marcus's heart swell with pride. She picked up her chocolate milkshake, walked over to their table, and stood there quietly until the mother looked up. "Hi," Emma said shyly. "My name is Emma. I have too much food, and my dad says sharing is important. Would your daughter like to share my milkshake? It has 2 straws." The mother opened her mouth, clearly about to decline, but Emma added quickly, "Please. I can't finish it by myself, and I don't want it to melt. My mom says wasting food is wrong." It was a white lie. Emma's mother had passed away 2 years ago, but it served a greater truth. The little girl looked up at her mother with such hope that resistance was impossible. That's very kind of you, sweetheart," the mother managed, her voice thick with emotion. Emma sat down between the 2 children, placing the milkshake in the center, and within moments, they were chatting like old friends. Marcus watched from his booth as his daughter laughed with the children, sharing fries and stories about school. The mother caught Marcus's eye across the space between tables. He saw recognition dawn in her expression. She understood what had really happened. Her lips trembled, and she mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Marcus simply nodded, his own throat tight. In that moment, he wasn't a millionaire. He was just a man who remembered being a scared kid watching his mother pretend she wasn't hungry, and a father who'd just learned that his greatest achievement wasn't his company or his fortune, it was raising a daughter who led with her heart. When the meal ended and the family prepared to leave, the mother stopped by Marcus's table. Up close, he could see she was younger than he'd thought, probably mid-20s, wearing scrubs under her jacket. "I know what you did," she said quietly. "I'm a nurse. I work double shifts at County General. My husband passed away 8 months ago, and daycare fell through today, so I had to bring them with me to my second job interview nearby. We were supposed to eat at home, but my car broke down, and this was the closest place I could walk to. I was trying to make one meal stretch." Her voice cracked. "You have no idea what your kindness means. Not just the food, the way you let me keep my dignity in front of my children." Marcus stood up, and for once, wealth and status meant nothing. "I was that kid once," he said simply. "My daughter saw something I'd almost forgotten how to see. You're doing an amazing job. Those kids are lucky to have you." She nodded, unable to speak, and hurried to collect her children. As they walked toward the door, the little girl turned back and waved enthusiastically at Emma, who waved back with equal enthusiasm. When they were gone, Emma climbed back into the booth. "Dad, I made new friends. Sarah wants to play with me sometime. Can we give them our phone number?" Marcus realized he'd already thought of that. He'd quietly asked Maria to pass along his business card with a note on the back, a standing offer of a job at his company if the mother ever needed one, and his personal number if she needed anything before then. "Maybe someday, Em," he said, pulling his daughter close. "But you know what? You did something more important than making friends today. You reminded me that having money means nothing if we don't use it to help others. Your mom would be so proud of you." Emma looked up at him with her mother's eyes. "She told me once that the best thing we can share isn't our things, it's our kindness. I miss her, Dad. I miss her too, baby. But she's here, in everything good you do." As they left the diner that night, Marcus held his daughter's hand a little tighter. His phone buzzed with notifications about stock prices and merger deals, but for once, he didn't check. Instead, he was thinking about a little girl who saw past appearances, a mother's fierce love and sacrifice, and the reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest ripples. 2 weeks later, Marcus hired Sarah's mother as a nurse for his company's new employee wellness program, at a salary that would change her family's life. But he never told Emma it was the same woman. Some lessons are best when they remain pure, untainted by outcomes. Because in the end, Emma's question wasn't really about sharing food. It was about sharing humanity.